My name is Craig. My son is Ross. He's 34 years old, and he works here at Lakeside Packaging. The reason I'm here today is to share a dilemma. The dilemma is this. 34 years ago when my son was born, he came early. He came into this world. We expected wonderful things. Our second son. As Ross grew, he was premature, of course, but he had delays, and I was the guy, I was truly the man that was the first one in the line for equal rights for my son. I wanted Ross to be mainstreamed into every program. I wanted him to learn how to read, how to divide, how to do all the important things. I wanted him to be able to get on a slide and get on the top and just roller coaster down and land in the leaves. These things became irrelevant because life changes. Our ideas change of what we try to do. Unfortunately for my son Ross, he has spastic cerebral palsy. Ross has a wonderful mind, but it's trapped in a body that just doesn't work right. As Ross was in high school, I went around Oshkosh and I checked at local pizza parlors, and I went up to those folks and I said, is there anything that I can do to have my son help out so he can have a fruitful, productive part of his day? Something that gave him meaning, something that gave him an opportunity to feel like he's doing the right thing. And he did this, and he would sit in the cold and hand out flyers outside of Walgreens or outside of Papa Murphy's. He took other jobs where he would, someone said, well, he could come into my kitchen and he could wash dishes, and Ross would take a dish and he would slowly wash that dish. See, for Ross, the simple action of picking up something is like this. Now, but on the same token though, if you wanted to talk baseball with Ross, you could talk forever. If you wanted to talk sports with Ross, you could talk forever. So we thought, well, we've got a great idea. Let's get Ross involved with the schools. So Ross became an announcer, announcing at school, but with help. And what that meant was, see, Ross can't read. His vision doesn't allow him to do so. It just doesn't happen. So he has a friend who works here with him that actually goes after school and reads the players' names and relays them to him. So if a batter's up, he'll say, Tom Murphy, number 8, up to bat. And then Ross will mimic and say that exact same terminology, and he'll add a little bit. I always have fun because I say, oh, I always try to say the wrong name, and he'll always instantly say the right name. I share this because life's a course. It's a course of crazy things. Myself, 9 years ago, I was stricken with what's called central vein occlusion in my eyes, in my vision. So I lost 75% of my vision. So instantly, I couldn't work. My doctor came to me and said, Craig, you can't work. I went, what do you mean I can't work? That's what I've been doing for 30 years. Well, Ross has been working for 15 years doing the same things, but it wasn't really the same things. What it was that it's the camaraderie, the person that he was sitting next to for 15 years and doing simple things and making life simple and meaningful to him. I have determined, and I've seen things in these last 2 months that just make me cry. My boy comes home sad. And that sadness is my fault. Let me explain what I mean. 25 years ago, I was the guy that was pushing for Ross to have the exact same rights and job ability that I have. I pictured him carrying the football. I pictured him having a job that would earn him money to raise a family. I would go to work daily for one reason only, to provide for my family, to do the right thing. Well, sometimes the right thing doesn't fit everybody. Someone once told me that if you have a cookie cutter and you want to make cookies all the same way, you take the cookie cutter and you'd roll out your dough and you'd stamp the cookie. If you want a Christmas tree, you'd make the Christmas tree, and they all come out the same. The only thing different is how you decorate them. And that's a wonderful idea because everything works out the same way. See, I was an advocate 25 years ago that my son was not going to be a cookie cutter. He was going to have a fruitful, wonderful, everything he enjoyed. He was going to have a family and all these things. I'll explain a little bit different. I shared a little bit of a tragedy that happened in our household, my vision. Nothing I can do about that can change that. Recently, I have things that I do during the day, and one of the things I do is I travel to our downtown of Oshkosh by foot to get a special coffee that I enjoy. It's about a 2.25 mile walk, big deal. But recently, this last month and a half, the city, our city is improving the sidewalks. So what that means is they're removing chunks and putting barriers in front of all these sidewalks. So the course that I take every single day, from the corner to the corner that I know is 423 steps, and from the crosswalk, and when I'm getting to the corner by the university, I know it's 18 steps across the street, and I know when to put my cane down so I don't trip and I don't fall. Something happened the other day. There was a barrier in front of me. The barrier was a piece of wood and fresh concrete. Well, last moment my cane hits the barrier, I step to the right, and guess what's in the concrete now? An imprint of a Nike logo. Nothing we can do to change that. But the difference is that now I know that barrier is there and I can change, and I took a different course coming home. I went down a different street. But I was helpless because I didn't know how many steps to take. It's something that I had rehearsed and planned every single day of my life. And that's where things, for individuals like Ross, he plans. He adapts, he learns. That slow, deliberate picking up. My son Ross will never earn a living. I say that's a sad thing. I never intended my son to be a burden on anyone. But unfortunately, being a caregiver 24 hours a day in our household, we're kind of an unusual family because many families don't have their children still living with them. We choose to do that because we just we want our son with us. His programming that he does on a daily basis is his choice. That cookie cutter program isn't something that fits everyone. What I mean by that is programming, no one can expect the unexpected. No one can expect the barrier to be across the sidewalk where Craig would step into and get into the concrete. Our job here at Lakeside is to make sure that the barriers are broken down and that Ross can feel comfortable as he comes to work. When I say work is that I could not take Ross to an actual workplace. Ross is 100% care. If Ross wants a drink of water, guess what? You have to give him a drink of water. If he has to go to the bathroom, it's a 2-person transfer. Myself, I do the silly things. I do it my own. It's not the right thing to do. He is full care. For Ross to go into a workplace, impossible. And to pay someone to do this, it wouldn't be one person to go into the workplace on a job shadow, it would be 2. Because if Ross has to go to the bathroom, guess what? And then the trick is finding a bathroom that he can even fit in. These are all things that we have no knowledge of. 25 years ago, I thought, yeah, my son was 52 pounds. I could pick him up. I could move him around. Oh, Ross is 212 pounds now. I can't move him. I can't pick him up. I do, but I shouldn't. And the income that's being garnished and grown for Ross on a daily basis isn't an income of value, money. His income is value of life. Ross said to me just last week, he says, and this, the reason that I'm sharing this is because it's just been the last few months that Ross his programming changed. So he's no longer allowed to work in a working environment that he's worked in for 15 years. And all of a sudden, just like me, after 35 years in the industry, I couldn't work. And I went through depression. I went through anxiety. And I see this happening to my boy. And it tears my heart up because there's nothing I can do. We try to use the right platform, we try to advocate, we try to talk, we try to do the things. But the problem is, when 25 years ago, I thought my son was going to get a paycheck. He was going to have an earning. He was going to be able to own his own home. See, the simple act of tearing a piece of paper for Ross is like this. But when he does it, it's got accomplishment. So, $10 an hour for Ross? In the first place, you wouldn't know what to do with it. Okay. But all those pieces of paper that Ross tears on a daily basis or shreds into a shredder or puts around utensils or separates crayons, or people think that's something that it's a given right and Ross should be earning a wage for doing so. Don't get me wrong. He's working. But he's not working for a pile of money. He's working for what he loves to do. And it's not being a paper tearer. It's being part of a community of people that love and care about each other. And that's what he gets here at Lakeside. He can no longer do that because of programming, wording. The cookie cutter program changed. It's supposed to fit Ross, but it doesn't fit Ross because the part of the cookie cutter is missing. I'm at fault. Not literally. But see, we try in this world to accommodate everybody. And sometimes the only way to accommodate everybody is to make a program that's to fit everybody. Well, unfortunately, the pieces don't put back together. I can't put these together. I'm no magic man. But I do know there's one thing that we can do. We can change the cookie cutter to put verbiage into those programs that allow people that do not have the opportunity or the ability to move on. Not to say, oh, you have to fail in 3 jobs before you can go on. And then all of a sudden you come back, or make a fictitious job coach. Oh, don't get me wrong, I get to be real creative and find things for job coaching for Ross, but no, that's not right. We have to find a way to put the verbiage all together so it turns into a square again. The verbiage to fit everyone. I'm Craig. My son is Ross. My wife is Sharon. And I thank you. I thank you for allowing to look deeply into your hearts on how the simple thing is, wording. 10 words can make a difference in my son's life. Not only in my son's life, but in thousands of people. And I know with elections and everything else, what's 1 or 2 voices? But I hear those voices every day. Every day when Ross comes home from his services, First thing he says, the first thing out of his word, mouth. Why can't I work? Now, simple part is that the paper's all there. The words are just wrong. They need to be put back together. So with that, I thank you. And I hope that your hearts are well.